Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Mariana Trench from designer Tim Layton and publisher Bright Light Games. In the Mariana Trench, you are going to be delving deep into the depths of the ocean in your submarines, trying to gain research by bringing back creatures from the deep to your research station and finding out about them and potentially facing many, many dangers along the way. Well, that's the theme anyway. Let me take you over to the table. I'll give you a general overview on how the game plays. Then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, here we see the initial setup for a game of the Mariana Trench. I do want to point out that this playmat that you see here in the video is not necessarily something that is going to come with every copy of the game. This was a Kickstarter, and so that is something that you could choose to have, but it's not necessary to play the game. It certainly looks nice, adds a little bit of thematic fun to the game. So this is essentially a 1 or 2 player game, but I'm showing you the overview for the multiplayer game here, the 2-player game. And what you're going to see here at the top, you see a research ship. Here you see the trench floor card, the bottom of the Mariana Trench, and then you've got 4 research cards in between that represent different levels of the sea that the 2 submarines here, the frogfish and the shrimp, are going to be going throughout the ocean, trying to explore and collect research creatures, essentially, and also upgrading their submarine. The game, you start with 1 charge token on your submarine. You can see you have 1 charge token maximum. And a couple of other things to point out here on the card that represents your sub. First, this shows you that you have a small creature hold. This means that you can only hold 1 small creature at the beginning of the game. It also shows you the movement of your submarine. You can move up to 2 fathoms. Each card represents a fathom. You have 0 sonar at the beginning of the game. That can be an upgrade. And you have 3 rivets that could potentially pop if you get attacked by a cephalopod. Each popped rivet here, represented by this little token, is going to be worth -2 points, -2 research points at the end of the game. So you don't want that. The other submarine has exactly the same beginning stats. So one of the submarines would go first, and what you're going to do essentially on your turn is you are going to move your submarine and research, check what is in that level of the ocean, and then make a choice at that point. Or if you have resurfaced back up to the research ship, you can recharge your sub. I'll talk about that in a moment. So you can move up to 2 fathoms. So let's say the frogfish here went first, and they went ahead and went down 2. What they would do is they would reveal the card. All right, in this case, it's a giant octopus. No, that's not good. That's a cephalopod. That is going to pop a rivet. However, I could spend my charge token, the 1 charge token I have, to shock, to zap that giant octopus, and it's not going to pop the rivet at this point. All right? So the giant octopus is there. Now, if I had a large hold on my submarine, I could go ahead and claim it by sliding it under the right side of my sub there. However, I don't. I don't have a large hold. The other thing you'll see on the other side is the upgrade. All right? In this case, you can get a sonar upgrade, which allows you to peek up to 1 fathom either above or below you, so you can kind of see what is there. So at this point, I cannot collect it as a creature because I don't have the right size hold. I could upgrade by popping this over here, and now I've got a sonar upgrade, or I could just potentially leave it there if I wanted to, so that on a later turn I could come back and collect it if I'd gotten a large hold. Okay, but since I don't have a large hold upgrade, let's say that I go ahead and I take this as a sonar upgrade. Now on future turns, I can kind of see what's happening here. Now, since the card was removed, you slide any of that cards that were above it down towards the trench floor, and you place the next one face up. All right, and let's say the shrimp was going to go next. They go here. They flip over a card. This is a moray eel. This has a upgrade of potentially upgrading your ship or your submarine where you could now go up to 3 fathoms, or they could collect it as a small creature. So let's say they went ahead and they did that. They collected this as a small creature, and then they refilled the card. Now, the frogfish would continue to go. You're going to continue to reveal cards. If you get down to the trench floor, you at that point are going to collect one of these research point tokens, and if you make it all the way back up to the top, to the research ship, you can unload those along with any creatures that you may have researched, and these are worth 2 points at the end of the game. Also, you can, once you're up here at the research ship, instead of continuing to go down in research, you can spend 1 turn. If you had to spend your charge token, you can spend a turn to recharge, and now you are protected against cephalopod attacks as well. Let's take a look at some of these cards so I can show you some of the different upgrades as well. This, as we saw, was a sonar upgrade. This allows you to move up or down. We've got all of those. Let's see if I can find you one that increases the hold. So this would be a hold increase. Now you can increase, you can have either 2 small creatures that you can carry in your submarine or 1 large creature. So something like the great white shark here, that would entail, you would need a large hold to be able to have that great white shark. So you're going to be doing this, going through this deck until you get down to the final 3 cards, which are represented by these oxygen tank cards. When the last oxygen card is revealed and put into the lineup here, both submarines are going to surface, and they're going to then total up points. The points that you get in the game are from a couple of different sources. You get, as I said, -2 points for every popped rivet token you have. You get +2 points for every research token that you have. And then all of the creatures that you have collected throughout the game are going to add up for you as well. All the ones that you kept not for their research upgrades, but for actually getting them as creatures that you have researched. And so each creature can be scored as a run or as part of a kind of a 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind. I'm just going to show you here in the rule book how that works. So you get points for runs, you get points for same of a kind, and again, each creature can be scored once in each of these types. And then you get 2 points for every research collected, -2 for any popped rivets. All right, that's the basics of the game. Very simple. It plays relatively quickly. Let's head back over, and I'll let you know what I think about it. Okay, well, hopefully that gives you a general idea on how the Mariana Trench plays out. It's not a very difficult game and not a whole lot of rules involved, so it's not too tough to go over. First thing I want to do is talk about some benchmarks. These are some high-level ideas that I like to consider when I'm deciding whether to get a game off the shelf and play it or not. The first thing is setup and tear down, and in the case of the Mariana Trench, it's a very quick to set up and tear down game. It's primarily made up of cards. It's not a lot of cards. There's a few tokens, but really you're up and ready to go in just a couple of minutes. It's a relatively short, when I say relatively, it's actually a quite short game, and so it's a good thing that the setup and tear down is quick, because otherwise the ratio would have felt off, but it doesn't. Just fine length of time to set the game up. The rules is the other thing I like to talk about, and as I mentioned, there aren't not a lot of rules in the game. It's a relatively simple rule set and structure, but the rule book does a good job of explaining what needs to be explained. The layout of it is just fine. It's not a traditional paged rule book. It's really just a fold-out sheet, but it's just fine. It's not hard to follow. No real complaints there at all. All right, the next thing I want to discuss are art and components. And this is something where I'm going to talk about something I didn't love at first and then what I do like. First thing is that the way the game is structured, and I kind of showed you this in the overview, you've got cards that are representing your submarine. And you're going to slot the cards to the left if it's an upgrade, slot cards to the right if they are creatures that you are bringing onto your submarine that you're then going to take back to the research ship. The issue I have with it is that while that's cool, and I like how they kind of slot in one side or the other, if you've got multiple upgrades and you've got potentially multiple creatures that you are carrying, that's a number of cards that are kind of arrayed out that you kind of have to be able to see what's what. And now you're moving that kind of stack of cards up and down this kind of assembly line, for lack of a better term. That gets a bit fiddly. What I kind of wish had been the case was that you just keep, and you could play it this way, is where you just keep your submarine in front of you and you tuck the cards that you want to have tucked in front of you, and that you have a little token, maybe a wooden sub meeple, that you're moving up and down the ocean track there. That to me would make a lot more sense. It would be more user-friendly, I think. Again, you could play it that way. You can have a little proxy token that you're using as your submarine and then just remove the cards that you have researched when you get back up to the top. That to me is something that I think would have made more sense. So that's a slight negative there because it's a little fiddly to move those up. On the plus side, this game is absolutely gorgeous. I love the art. The look of it is striking. Anybody who passes by is going to be interested because it looks so beautiful. As I showed you in the overview, you can optionally get a playmat that makes it pop even more. But even without that playmat, the art on the cards themselves are gorgeous and really draws you into the theme of this game. All right, overall game impressions, overall game experience. First of all, I want to talk about some things that did not work as well for me, and then things that I did appreciate. First, this game feels very luck dependent to me. Now, I don't have a problem, generally speaking, with luck in games, depending on the type of game. And this is a game that it's essentially a micro game. I don't mind a bit of luck in that, but this felt like it went over the line. I felt like there was just not as much player agency in this game as I would like. You flip over a card, you may like what you see, you may not. Now, they do have that sonar upgrade, which helps with that a little bit. You can kind of see, but I don't know that that's enough. I still felt like the luck of the draw here is remarkably high, and that knocks it down a little bit for me. Also, the game feels too short. I know it's meant to be a relatively short game, but it feels too short. Every time you're removing a card from that lineup, you're essentially bringing about more closer to the end game. And you're almost every turn going to be removing a card, whether you're taking it for an upgrade or you're taking it as a research creature. I do know that there will be times that you flip a card over and you're not going to take it. But that's not the norm. The norm is you're going to take a card, either for an upgrade or for a research creature. And every time you do that, you're taking a card from the deck to bring about the end game. It's a very small deck of cards, so the game is over before you know it. So I just wish it was a little bit longer. All right, so the things that I did enjoy. It's a micro game that feels unique in that genre. Most micro games that I've played, and I don't know if it's billing itself as a micro game, this is terminology that I'm putting on it. Just to be fair, I'm putting that terminology on it. It feels like a micro game to me. It feels unique in that class. Most of the games I feel of this length are more like almost dueling card games. And this, in a way, is dueling. You know, you have it's a two-player game or solo, but I'm not covering that in this review. You're two submarines that are going at it, but it feels different. It feels unique and it feels novel in this kind of genre of game, and I appreciate that. And again, a huge positive for me is the theme and the aesthetic. I really, really, really adore the look of it, and I like the theme. I feel like this is a theme that has not been utilized very much, the idea of plumbing the depths of the ocean. I love that. And so as soon as I heard about this game, as soon as I knew about the theme, it was one I was interested in. So all of those things taken into consideration, it's a game that does some things well, but I can't quite recommend it. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 for the reasons I mentioned. It feels a little bit too short. It feels very, very luck dependent, lack of player agency. You know, I know that there are some expansions that are available for the game that may address some of these things. I'm not really sure. I haven't played with the expansions at this point. This is just a review of the base game. So 6 out of 10, does some things well, but I can't quite give it the recommendation. All right, well, That's it for me. This is Mike DiLisio signing off from Dice Tower headquarters.